My hands were shaking as I pressed the phone to my ear, the promotion letter still warm in my other hand. The parking lot outside my office was almost deserted, long shadows stretching across the ground. You'd think I'd be celebrating. But instead, I was about to put the man I'd loved for 8 years to the ultimate test, Joseph. When he answered, his voice came sharp and impatient. "What now, Maria?" "I'm watching the game with Dad." That tone, cold, dismissive, had become all too familiar. I swallowed hard, slipped the letter into my purse and whispered, "I need to tell you something. I got fired today." The silence that followed felt endless, like a wall between us. I held my breath, praying for comfort, support, anything that sounded like love. Instead, he laughed. A cruel, cutting laugh. "Good. Maybe now you'll stop acting like you're better than everyone. But don't think you can sit around here. I won't have you dragging this house down. Get another job. How do you expect me to pay bills and support my parents and siblings?" His words hit me harder than any punch could. 8 years of marriage, and this was all I was worth to him? I tried again, "Joseph," but he cut me off. "Maria, I don't have time for your drama. Figure it out." Then he hung up. I just sat there staring at the dead screen, my own reflection faint in the glass. The promotion letter in my purse suddenly felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Senior Vice President of Operations. A 60% raise. Everything I'd worked for. And in the same breath, my husband had shown me exactly what our marriage was really worth. But here's the thing, Joseph didn't know I'd been recording our conversations for weeks. He didn't know every cruel word, every insult, every time he tore me down was sitting neatly in a file. He didn't know I'd already talked to a lawyer. And he sure as hell didn't know that his reaction to my fake firing had just sealed his fate. As I turned the key in my car, only one thought ran through my mind. If Joseph wanted to see me fall, I'd make sure he had front row seats to his own downfall instead. My name is Maria Aiden, and 6 months ago I thought I was living a dream life. I built my career from scratch, starting as a junior analyst at Meridian Financial, grinding through 18-hour days and endless weekends for 12 long years. I earned my corner office on the 32nd floor, with the city skyline right outside my window. My paycheck didn't just support me and Joseph, it carried his whole family too. Looking back now, that should have been my first red flag. When I first met Joseph back in college, he was everything you'd expect from a guy who seemed to have his life all figured out. Charming, confident, full of big dreams about starting a business and building a future together. I thought we were going to be partners in every sense of the word. But somewhere along the line, those dreams shifted. His charm started feeling more like control, and that drive he once had, it turned into pure entitlement. "Maria, you're home late again." His mom, Jacqueline, called out from the kitchen the second I walked through the front door. She's been living with us for 3 years now. Supposedly just temporary help. After Joseph's dad retired, but temporary somehow became permanent. "Sorry, Jacqueline. Big presentation today," I said as I set down my bag and slipped out of my blazer. The house smelled like her cooking, which might have been comforting if she ever cooked for me. But no, her meals were always perfectly timed for when I was stuck at work. "Joseph's in the den with his dad and Angela," she said without even looking up from the stove. "They're going over wedding plans. She'll need help with the down payment for the venue." Of course she would. Angela, Joseph's little sister, had been planning this dream wedding for 2 years, and somehow every detail had landed on my shoulders. The engagement party, the shower, the shopping trips to New York, my credit cards carried the weight of her fairy tale. When I walked into the den, they were all crowded around Joseph's laptop, numbers glowing on the screen. His dad, Tony, looked up with a smile. "Maria, perfect timing. We're just working on Angela's budget. She's found this gorgeous mountain venue. But it's a little more than planned." "How much more?" I asked, already bracing myself. Angela lit up. "Only 15,000 extra. It's absolutely perfect, Maria, you have to see the pictures." 15,000. On top of the 30 I'd already poured into this wedding. My chest tightened under the familiar pressure, the kind that had been building on me month after month. "We can talk about it later," I said carefully, heading toward the hallway. "I need to change out of my work clothes." But Joseph cut in. "Actually, we should talk now. Dad thinks maybe you're pushing too hard at work. You know how office politics can be. Maybe it's time to step back. Focus on family." The words hit me like ice water. Step back? I'd been working for 3 years straight toward that senior VP role. I had sacrificed for it. I had earned it. Tony gave me a polite smile. You're already doing such a great job providing for all of us. Maybe it's time to just enjoy life instead of always chasing the next thing. I looked around that room, Joseph dismissing me like my career was nothing, Angela smiling like I was her personal ATM, Tony's smug nod, Jacqueline leaning against the doorway with her arms crossed, silently measuring me. That's when it hit me. They weren't family. They were dependents. They wanted me right where I was. Successful enough to bankroll their lives, but never strong enough to realize I deserved better. That night, lying next to Joseph in bed, I made a promise to myself. I was going to test them. All of them. I needed to see once and for all what I really meant to the people I'd been carrying for years. I just didn't expect them to fail so completely. Before I take you further into this story, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I love knowing where our little global family is tuning in. And if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe. We've got so many more powerful stories like this one. The promotion meeting was set for Thursday morning. I'd been preparing for weeks, rehearsing my pitch, gathering client testimonials, tracking every single win I'd brought to the company. This was my moment, and nothing, absolutely nothing, was going to take it from me. Rebecca, my supervisor, had all but promised me the promotion. You've earned this, Maria, she told me with that confident smile of hers. Your numbers speak louder than words. So that Thursday, sitting in the conference room while the executives flipped through my portfolio, I should have been nervous about their decision. But honestly, my head was somewhere else. The night before, I'd overheard Joseph on the phone with his brother Giovanni. I was brushing my teeth when their voices carried through the thin walls. She's getting too big for her britches, Joseph said. Always going on about work, deadlines, stress. The money's going to her head. Maybe it's time to remind her what really matters. Giovanni didn't miss a beat. Family comes first, right? Exactly, Joseph replied. I've been thinking maybe another kid would keep her grounded. Another kid. We'd had that conversation before. I told him I wanted to wait until my career was more secure. He nodded back then, acted like he understood. But now it was clear he'd been making plans for me without me. Maria. Rebecca's voice pulled me back. The board has made their decision. Congratulations, you're our new Senior Vice President of Operations. The room broke into applause, hands shook mine, people smiled. But their voices sounded far away. I smiled back, but inside, all I could hear was Joseph's words. That evening, the promotion letter sat on the passenger seat as I drove home. My hands shook when I dialed Joseph's number. What now, Maria? I'm watching the game with Dad. His tone was sharp, annoyed, like I'd interrupted something sacred. This is important, I said softly. I got fired today. The silence was crushing. I held my breath, praying he'd ask if I was okay. Maybe tell me he'd come get me, that we'd figure it out together. Instead, he laughed. Dad, did you hear that? She says she got fired. Maybe that'll humble her. She's been walking around like she's better than everyone. And then, as if the knife wasn't already deep enough, he added, Don't think you can just sit around. You better find another job quick. I'm not carrying this whole family, my parents, my siblings, by myself. Something cracked inside me. Not just my heart. Every excuse I'd ever made for him. Every time I told myself he was tired or stressed or just in a bad season. All of it fell apart in that moment. Joseph, Save it, he cut me off. I don't have time for your drama. And then he hung up. I sat there in the grocery store parking lot, staring at my phone. Around me, life went on, a mom pushing her toddler in a cart, an older couple helping each other out of their car, people surrounded by love, support, the very thing I'd been missing. My phone buzzed again. A text from Joseph. Don't come home crying. The family doesn't need to see you like this. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just Joseph. It was all of them. To them, I wasn't a person. I was a paycheck with legs. When I finally walked through the front door, the house was alive with chatter and clinking dishes. Sounds that once made me feel safe now just reminded me how trapped I was. In the kitchen, Jacqueline was serving dinner. Isaac and Tony were at the table. Angela lit up when she saw me. Perfect timing. I was just telling Mom and Dad about the flowers for the wedding. If we book by next week, we can get a discount. That's nice, I said, setting my purse down, my voice quiet. Jacqueline glanced up. You look tired, dear. Rough day at work. This was it. The moment of truth. I got fired today. The room froze. Angela's fork clattered against her plate. Tony lowered his newspaper. Jacqueline's mouth fell open. Fired? What do you mean fired? Angela demanded. I mean, I don't have a job anymore, I said, letting my voice crack. They're downsizing. Her face drained of color. But what about my wedding? The deposit? The flowers? Not a single "Are you okay?" Not one. What happened? Just panic over how my supposed job loss would affect her wedding. Tony cleared his throat. Now, Maria, I'm sure this is temporary. You'll find something else. Angela's voice shot higher. But what if she doesn't? What about my dress? The catering? Jacqueline stood abruptly. Where's Joseph? He needs to hear this right away. She rushed out, leaving me with the others. Angela muttered. This is a disaster. Already pulling out her phone. I need to call the planner. Tony folded his newspaper neatly, like a judge about to deliver a sentence. Maria, I hope you understand the position this puts the family in. We've all been depending on your income. I know, I whispered. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't pay bills, he said flatly. Sorry doesn't cover wedding expenses or this household. You need another job. Immediately. The cruelty of it stole my breath. I wasn't even allowed to grieve. I was just a broken machine they needed to fix. And then Joseph appeared in the doorway, anger written all over his face. Jacqueline hovered behind him. Is it true? He demanded. You got fired? I nodded. Unbelievable, he muttered, running a hand through his hair. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you know how much we depend on your paycheck? Joseph, please. No, Maria. This is exactly what I was afraid of. You got too full of yourself, probably mouthed off, and now you've sabotaged our family's security. His voice grew louder, accusatory, cruel. And in that moment, standing there in my own kitchen, I realized something. I was never their partner. I was their provider, their safety net, their sacrifice. And I was done. Angela broke down crying, clutching her phone like it was the only thing holding her together. My wedding is ruined. Everything is ruined. Tony tried to calm her down, patting her shoulder gently. Come on now, Angela. We'll figure something out. Maria will find another job. But what if she doesn't? Angela sobbed harder. What if no one hires her? What if she's blacklisted forever? Their voices swirled around me, but it was like I wasn't even there. They were talking about me like I was some broken appliance they needed to fix or replace. Joseph pulled out his phone. I'll call my brother. Maybe Giovanni knows someone hiring. Good idea, Jacqueline chimed in quickly. And Maria should start applying tonight. Every minute she waits is money slipping away. I quietly excused myself and went upstairs, closing the bedroom door behind me. Through the thin walls, I could still hear them plotting out my life without even including me in the conversation. I sat on the edge of my bed and pulled out the letter from my purse. Senior Vice President of Operations. A 60% raise. Stock options. A corner office with a skyline view. Everything they thought I had lost I had already gained. But they didn't know that yet. And when they did, it would be too late. The next morning, I woke up to Joseph pacing the bedroom, already dressed, phone pressed to his ear. Yes, I understand the timeline, he said. But this is urgent. My wife just lost her job, and we need to know our options. Divorce. I froze. My heart turned to ice as I listened to him ask about filing. He wanted to know how quickly it could happen, what it meant for assets, and my stomach dropped how it would affect alimony if he filed before I found another job. He hung up, turned, and caught me staring. He didn't even look ashamed. Oh, you're awake, he said casually. Who were you talking to? I asked, though I already knew. Just exploring our options. Maria, we need to be realistic here. If you can't replace your income, we might need to make some hard choices. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Hard choices, I repeated. He sat down on the bed but kept his distance. Look, I've thought about this all night. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe we're not as compatible as we thought. I stared at him. This man I had loved for 8 years. The man I'd supported, built a life with sacrifice for. And he was ready to throw it all away, not because of love, not because of happiness, but because he thought I couldn't pay his bills anymore. You want a divorce? My voice was flat. I want what's best for both of us, he said smoothly. And honestly, Maria, you've been distant, always wrapped up in work. Maybe this is a chance for us both to start fresh. The manipulation was unbelievable. He was twisting my so-called job loss into being about me, my flaws, our marriage, anything but the truth, that he couldn't handle the thought of me no longer carrying his financial weight. I see, I whispered. I'm glad you understand. He nodded like we were having a calm business meeting. If we handle this maturely, we can move on without too much drama. Drama? That was his concern. And your family? Angela's wedding? What about them? I asked. He just shrugged. That shrug cut deeper than his words. They'll understand. Family comes first, and I need to think about my future. I can't support someone who doesn't contribute equally. I repeated his words slowly, bitterly. Equally. Joseph, I've been the primary breadwinner our entire marriage. I've paid for this house, your parents' living expenses, Angela's wedding, your dad's medical bills. That was then, he snapped. This is now. And now you're unemployed with no prospects. I studied his face. No sadness, no guilt. Just cold calculation. How long have you been planning this? I asked. Planning what? The divorce. How long have you been waiting for an excuse? His jaw tightened. Don't be dramatic. This isn't about excuses. It's about reality. But I could see it in his eyes. This wasn't sudden. He'd been thinking about leaving for a while. My fake firing had just given him the perfect excuse. I'll stay in the guest room until we figure out arrangements, he said as he stood. It's better to have some space. When he left, I sat in the silence of our bedroom, surrounded by reminders of the life I thought I had. Pictures on the dresser, vacations I paid for, family events I funded. In every photo I was smiling, believing I was part of something real. I had been such a fool. My phone buzzed. A message from Rebecca. Congratulations again on the promotion. When should we announce it to the team? I stared at it, then typed back. Can we wait a few days? I have some personal matters to handle first. Of course, she replied. Take your time. If only she knew what I was really planning. That evening, Joseph called a family meeting. We all gathered in the living room like always, but this time the air was heavy with tension. Jacqueline sat primly in her chair. Isaac leaned back in the recliner. Angela sat on the couch, her eyes still swollen from crying. Joseph stood by the fireplace like he was giving a boardroom presentation. I asked everyone here because we need to discuss the situation, he began. Maria's job loss affects all of us, and we have to make some tough decisions. What kind of decisions? Isaac asked, though he already seemed to know. Joseph glanced at me, then back at them. Maria and I feel it might be best to take some time apart. Angela gasped. You're getting divorced? We're exploring options, Joseph said carefully. This situation has shown us we may not be as compatible as we thought. I scanned their faces. Jacqueline's expression was neutral, but I caught the spark of satisfaction in her eyes. Isaac nodded like it was reasonable. Angela looked devastated. But what about my wedding? She whispered. That's something we'll have to reconsider, Joseph said. Obviously, things have changed financially. Changed how? Angela's voice was rising. She turned to me. Maria, you'll still help with the wedding, right? Even if you and Joseph are having problems. All eyes turned to me, waiting for me to say yes. Waiting for me to promise I'd still fund their dreams even if my marriage was falling apart. I lowered my voice and whispered, I don't know. I wasn't even sure I'd be able to land another job. Of course you will. Jacqueline jumped in, her tone brisk and matter-of-fact. You're educated, you've got experience. Someone will hire you. But what if they don't? I asked again, my chest tightening. What if I end up with a job that pays less? What if I can't help with the wedding anymore, or cover the house bills? The room went silent. And not the soft kind of silence, the heavy, suffocating kind. I could practically see them calculating in their heads how my loss would shake up their lives. Finally, Tony cleared his throat. Well, Isaac, he said carefully, We'd all just have to make a few adjustments. Adjustments? I pressed. He shifted in his seat, clearly uncomfortable. Maybe Angela's wedding could be smaller. Maybe Jacqueline and I could consider senior housing. Senior housing? Jacqueline's voice cut through the room like glass. We can't afford that. Our retirement savings wouldn't even cover half the costs. Joseph leaned back, his arms crossed. Then maybe it's time everyone starts being a little more independent. That's when Angela broke down again, her voice shaking as tears streamed down her cheeks. This is a nightmare. My whole life is falling apart because Maria couldn't keep her job. I looked at her, my voice soft but steady. Angela, I didn't choose to get fired. Joseph's head snapped toward me, his voice sharp and cold. Didn't you? Didn't you choose to stir up trouble at work? To push for that promotion instead of being grateful for what you already had? His words felt like poison dripping into the air. He was twisting everything, turning my ambition, my hard work, into some kind of character flaw. I worked hard, I said firmly. I did everything I was supposed to. Jacqueline sniffed, unimpressed. Apparently not hard enough. I looked around at the people I had called family for 8 years. Not one of them had asked how I felt. Not one had offered comfort. They were all too busy worrying about how my situation would hurt them. I drew a breath and said slowly, maybe Joseph's right. Maybe it is time for some changes. Angela's eyes widened. What do you mean? I said, my voice steady now. Maybe it's time everyone started taking responsibility for their own lives. And maybe it's time I stop enabling all of you. The room felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Enabling. Tony's voice had a dangerous edge. Maria, you're being dramatic. Am I? I shot back. When's the last time any of you paid a bill in this house? When's the last time you covered your own expenses? Jacqueline straightened. We contribute in other ways. I cook. I clean. I laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You cook for everyone but me. You clean when it fits your schedule. And you've never once paid a single bill. Maria, Joseph warned, his voice low. You're upset. You're not thinking straight. I stood up, my heart pounding but my head clearer than it had been in years. No, Joseph. I'm thinking straighter than ever. And you want the truth? I'm glad this happened. I'm glad I lost my job. Because now I see exactly how you all see me. Angela's voice shot out, shrill and desperate. We see you as family. No, I said quietly, almost a whisper. You see me as a bank account. And now that you think the account is empty, you're ready to throw me away. I turned toward the stairs, then paused, looking Joseph right in the eye. You want a divorce? Fine. You'll get one. But don't expect me to make it easy. And don't expect me to keep funding this family while you try to tear mine apart. I climbed the stairs, leaving them whispering in frantic, hushed tones, already plotting their next moves. They thought they were clever. They had no idea what was coming. The very next morning, I called in sick and drove across town to the office of Regina Hendris, the divorce attorney I'd quietly met with 3 weeks earlier. Regina was sharp, mid-50s, silver hair, eyes like steel. She was known for taking down cheating husbands and making sure women walked away with their power intact. Maria, she said as I sat across from her desk, didn't expect to see you this soon. Plans changed, I said, pulling out my phone. I need you to hear something. I hit play. Joseph's cruel laugh filled the quiet office. Then his conversation with the lawyer, casually talking about divorce and hiding assets. Regina's jaw tightened, her pen hovering over the notepad. When did you record these? Yesterday. And this morning. I've been documenting everything for weeks. Her lips curved into a satisfied smile. Smart woman. And he still doesn't know about your promotion. No one does, I said. Not yet. Good. Keep it that way. She scribbled notes quickly. Here's the plan. He wants to file first. Let him. Let him claim you're a financial burden. Let him paint his picture in black and white. And then, once his story is locked in those court papers, we'll drop the truth, your promotion. I couldn't help the smile tugging at my lips. And what happens then? Her eyes gleamed. Then we show the court exactly what kind of man he really is. A man who abandons his wife the second he thinks she can't provide. A man who lies, manipulates, and uses the legal system for his own gain. And once the court sees that, his case crumbles. Especially when we prove you're making more than ever. I leaned back, letting her words sink in. And what about his family? They've been living off me for years. That, Regina said, her smile turning predatory, is where it gets even better. We're going to document every demand they've made, every expectation that you'd keep being their personal ATM. And then we'll show the court exactly how you've been exploited. She slid a small recording device across the desk. Keep recording. Every conversation, every guilt trip, every ugly comment. The more we have, the stronger your case. And the house? I asked. I bought it, but Joseph's name is on the deed. You've got records of the payments, right? Every single one. Mortgage, taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance. 8 years of proof that I paid for everything. Her eyes lit up. Perfect. And the family's expenses. I've got those 2 medical bills, car payments, credit cards, groceries. I've supported them all. Regina nodded with approval. You've been thorough, Maria. That's going to pay off in ways they never saw coming. As I walked out of her office, something shifted inside me. For the first time in months, I felt hope. Not just the kind of hope that dreams about running away, but the kind of hope that whispers about justice. Joseph and his family honestly believed they could toss me aside the second I stopped being useful. They were about to see just how wrong they were. In the days that followed, I slipped into the role of the heartbroken, jobless wife. I spent hours sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop open, pretending to scroll through job listings. In reality, I was working with Regina, carefully piecing together my next move. And while I played the part, their true colors came out clearer every day. Angela postponed her dress fitting and even canceled her cake tasting. But instead of admitting it had nothing to do with me, she made sure I carried the blame. One morning, she glared at me and said, "I hope you're happy. My dream wedding is falling apart because you couldn't keep a job." I kept my eyes on my laptop. "I'm sorry," I murmured. "Sorry doesn't fix anything," she snapped. "Do you know how humiliating it is to call vendors and explain that my sister-in-law can't pay her share anymore?" That's when Jacqueline walked in from the laundry room with a basket of clothes. "Angela, sweetheart, maybe you should think about a smaller wedding. Something simpler." "Smaller?" Angela's voice cracked. "I've been planning this wedding for 2 years. The invitations are already out. I can't just change everything now." From the recliner, Isaac Tony chimed in. "Well, what do you suggest? Maria clearly can't afford the wedding you originally planned." They were talking about me like I wasn't even sitting there. Like I was a broken appliance they needed to figure out how to replace. Then Angela tilted her head, her eyes narrowing. Maybe Maria could take out a loan, or put it on her credit cards. Just until she gets another job. I finally looked up. "Angela, I can't go into debt when I don't even have income." "But it's my wedding," she wailed. "This is supposed to be the most important day of my life." Jacqueline patted her arm gently. "And it will be, dear. We'll figure something out." That's when Joseph appeared in the doorway, dressed for his shift at the auto shop. His paycheck barely covered his own gas money, but he strutted around like he was the family's savior. "Any luck with the job search?" he asked, his tone sharp, like he already knew the answer. "A few leads," I lied. "Nothing solid yet." "Well, you need to try harder," he said. "I can't support this entire household on my salary." The irony almost made me laugh. Joseph's paycheck couldn't even cover our utilities. But he wanted to paint himself as the responsible one, carrying the weight I supposedly dropped. "I'm doing my best," I said quietly. "Your best wasn't good enough to keep your job," he shot back. "Maybe it's time to lower your standards. Take whatever you can get." After he left, I kept up my fake phone calls to imaginary employers, fake emails while the family whispered about me as if I were a burden they had to solve. Later that afternoon, Angela cornered me in the kitchen. "Maria, I need you to be honest. How much money do you have saved?" "Why?" I asked, already knowing. "Because maybe you could use your savings to cover the wedding. Just temporarily until you're back on your feet." "Angela, that money is for living expenses. I don't know how long it'll take to find another job." "But this is my wedding," she said, like that explained everything. "You can rebuild your savings later." "And what if I can't?" I asked. Her face hardened. "You're being selfish." This family has always supported you, and now when we need help, you're only thinking about yourself." I almost laughed out loud. Supported me? For 8 years, I had been the one carrying them financially and emotionally. And now, because they thought I couldn't anymore, I was selfish for refusing to drain myself dry for Angela's wedding? "I'll think about it," I muttered, just to end the conversation. "Don't think too long," she warned. "The vendors need answers soon or I'll lose everything." That night, I sat in my car outside a coffee shop, phone pressed to my ear. "They want me to use my savings for the wedding," I told Regina. "Perfect. You're recording everything, right?" "Every word." "Good. The more proof we have of their exploitation, the stronger our case." "How's Joseph handling the divorce?" I asked. "He filed yesterday. His lawyer's pushing for a quick settlement, claiming financial hardship." Of course he was. He wanted everything wrapped up before I could land another job and complicate his story. "Let him think he's winning," Regina said. "Right until the moment we reveal your promotion." As I drove home, I remembered a conversation I'd overheard that morning between Joseph and his father. They were talking about the house. "She can't afford the mortgage without her job," his father had said. "That's what I'm hoping," Joseph replied. "My lawyer thinks we can get the house, especially if she doesn't find work soon." They weren't just planning to hurt me. They were planning to take everything: the home I bought, the life I built, the stability I gave them. They thought I was broken, too weak to fight back. They were wrong. 2 weeks into my performance, I had everything I needed: recordings, proof, evidence of every cruel word and demand. But it was Angela's meltdown that finally pushed me to drop the act. I was at the kitchen table, pretending to look for jobs, when Angela stormed in mid-phone call. "No, you don't understand," she cried. "My sister-in-law lost her job. We just need more time." She hung up, her face red. "That was the venue. They're threatening to cancel if we don't pay the balance by Friday." "How much?" I asked calmly, though I already knew. "25,000, she said, her voice cracking. "Maria, you have to help me." "Angela, I've told you." "I don't care what you've told me," she screamed. "This is my wedding, the most important day of my life, and you're ruining it." Jacqueline rushed in. "What's going on?" "The venue wants their money," Angela sobbed. "And Maria won't help." "Won't or can't?" Jacqueline's eyes narrowed. "She has savings. She has credit cards. She could find a way if she wanted to." "Is that true, Maria?" Jacqueline asked coldly. I looked at both of them, two women who had lived in my house, eaten my food, spent my money for years. And now they were looking at me like I was the villain for not bankrupting myself for a wedding. "I have some savings," I admitted. "But I need that money for yourself," Angela cut me off. "While my entire future is falling apart." "Your future isn't falling apart because of a wedding venue," I said quietly. "Yes, it is," she screamed. "Don't you get it? This is my dream, my perfect day, and you're destroying it because you're too selfish to help your own family." "Selfish," I repeated. "Yes," she cried, mascara running down her face. "We've sacrificed for you. We've supported you. And now when we need you, you've turned your back on us." The rewrite of history left me stunned. "What sacrifices, Angela? When have you supported me? We've been your family. We've welcomed you, included you." I laughed bitterly. "You've lived in my house rent-free for 3 years. I've paid for your car, your insurance, your medical bills, your shopping trips. What exactly have you sacrificed?" Angela's mouth opened, but no words came out. Jacqueline stepped forward, her face like stone. "Maria, I think you're forgetting everything we've given you. A home, love, belonging. That's worth more than money. A home that I bought and paid for. Love that disappears the moment you think I can't fund your lifestyle. Belonging that only exists if my bank account stays open. That's not family." Jacqueline's voice wavered. "That's not true, isn't it?" I shot back. "Where was this love when Joseph called a lawyer the day after I lost my job? Where was it when you all started planning how to cut me out?" The kitchen went silent. Angela stopped crying. Jacqueline's lips pressed into a thin line. "We never said we wanted to cut you out," Angela whispered. "You didn't have to say it. Your actions said it for you." I closed my laptop with a sharp snap and stood. This was the breaking point. You really want the truth? I'm glad this all happened. Losing my job, at least that's what you thought, showed me exactly where I stand with all of you. I'm not family to you. I'm just your ATM. The second you thought the money was gone, you were ready to toss me aside. Maria, Jacqueline started, but I cut her off. No, I'm finished. I'm done pretending we're a family. I'm done being used, treated like a paycheck instead of a person. Angela, if you want your fairy tale wedding, you can figure out how to pay for it yourself. Jacqueline, if you want to keep living here, you can start paying rent. And Joseph? I let out a cold laugh. Joseph can have his divorce, but he's not getting a single thing from me. I turned and started up the stairs. Behind me, their voices dropped into frantic whispers, already plotting, already panicking, already scrambling to save the lifestyle they'd gotten so comfortable with. But what they didn't know, that lifestyle was about to turn into nothing more than an expensive memory. Chapter 9. The Revelation. The next morning I called Regina. It's time. Maria, are you sure? She asked. Once we reveal your promotion, there's no undoing it. I'm sure. I can't play this little charade for one more day. All right. I'll file our response to Joseph's divorce petition today. But Maria, make sure you're safe when this news breaks. It's going to get ugly. That morning, I finally let myself enjoy my new office, my new title. My assistant handed me coffee, my team congratulated me, and for the first time in weeks I actually felt like me again. At noon I drove home, knowing this would be the last time I ever walked through that door as Joseph's wife. The house was quiet, too quiet. When I walked into the living room, they were all sitting there, faces tight, eyes burning. Joseph stood, a stack of papers trembling in his hands. Maria, he said, we need to talk. About what? He shoved the papers toward me. About this. About all the lies you've been feeding us. My heart pounded, but I kept my face calm. What lies? Don't, he snapped. Don't you dare. I know about your promotion. I know about your salary. I know you've been making fools out of us. Angela's face was streaked with angry tears. How could you do this to us? How could you let us believe you were fired? How did you even find out? I asked. Your company called, Jacqueline said coldly. They wanted to schedule a photo shoot for their new senior vice president. I almost laughed. Out of all the ways for the truth to come out, that was one I hadn't seen coming. So it's true, Isaac's voice cracked with rage. You've been lying to us all along. Yes. My voice was steady. That one word hung in the air like a bomb. Angela broke into loud sobs. Joseph crushed the papers in his fist. Why? Why would you do something so cruel? Cruel. I let out a bitter laugh. Let's talk about cruel. Let's talk about how fast you called a divorce lawyer when you thought I lost my job. How none of you cared about me, you only cared about what losing my paycheck meant for you. Angela shook her head. That's exactly what happened. I wanted to see what you'd do if I couldn't support you anymore. And you failed. Miserably. Joseph's face flushed red. You manipulated us. No, Joseph. I gave you a chance to show me who you really are. And you did. All of you did. And it was ugly. Angela's voice cracked as she screamed. We're your family. How could you test us like that? You're not my family. Real family doesn't vanish the second life gets hard. Real family doesn't put a $ on love. Real family doesn't call a divorce lawyer the moment their spouse stumbles. I pulled out my phone and hit play. Joseph's voice filled the room cold, calculated as he spoke with his lawyer about assets, alimony, and cutting me out. The silence that followed was suffocating. You recorded me? Joseph whispered. I recorded all of you. Every cruel comment, every selfish demand, every moment that proved exactly how little I meant to you. Jacqueline shot up from her seat. This is outrageous. You've been manipulating us. No, I said calmly. I've been documenting you. There's a difference. And then I told them the truth, how every recording, every message, every reaction was now sitting in Regina's hands, ready for court. The color drained from Joseph's face. Angela was hyperventilating. Jacqueline stammered excuses. But I was already done. Joseph, you wanted a divorce? You'll get one. But you won't get this house. You won't get alimony. And you won't get one single penny from me. Angela can pay for her own wedding. And the rest of you can finally learn what it means to support yourselves. I turned and walked upstairs, leaving them behind in the ruins of their own greed. That afternoon, I packed my things and moved into a corporate apartment. Within hours, the desperate calls started. Joseph begging, Angela sobbing, Jacqueline pretending to apologize while still blaming me. But I didn't answer. Not once. Because the truth was crystal clear. They never loved me. They loved my money. And now they had neither. That's not fair, Maria. We always welcomed you. Into my own house? The house I paid for with food I bought, while you all lived off my income and treated me like a maid. That was the last thing I said before he hung up. An hour later he called back, pretending to apologize, trying a softer tone. But by then it was too late. They'd all started switching tactics: guilt, begging, fake promises, but I'd already seen the truth. And once you see someone's true face, you can't unsee it. 6 months after the divorce, I was finally breathing again. My promotion had opened doors I never imagined. The company was going global, and they asked me to lead the European division. 2 years in London, with a salary that made my old paycheck look small. I sold the house Joseph and I had lived in. It carried too many ghosts. Instead, I bought a sleek condo downtown, floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the river. Smaller, yes, but it was mine. The silence was priceless. No one knocking on my door asking for wedding money, medical bills, or car payments. No one treating my success like it was their lottery ticket. No one making me feel guilty for working hard. I even started dating again, slowly. A colleague introduced me to Giovanni, another executive who knew exactly what it was like to balance career and life. He'd been through his own divorce, and he carried wisdom I wish I'd had years ago. Over dinner one night, he said, "The thing about being independent is you'll always know if someone loves you for you, not your money." That hit me like lightning. Joseph's family had stopped calling once I changed my number and blocked them everywhere, but little pieces of gossip still reached me. Joseph was juggling 2 jobs, living in a tiny studio, struggling. Word about the divorce and how he treated me spread quickly. And most women weren't interested in someone who'd throw his wife away the moment he thought she couldn't pay his bills. Angela had landed a retail job and was miserable, earning minimum wage. Her fiancé left when he realized she had no money. Turns out he was just as much of a gold digger as she was. Jacqueline and Isaac were squeezed into a small apartment, his health declining and no way to pay for treatment. They'd even applied for government assistance, the same thing they used to look down on while living off me. I didn't feel joy in their struggles, but I didn't feel guilt either. They wrote their story, not me. One night, walking out of my office, I saw him, Joseph, standing by my car, thinner, older, looking like life had chewed him up. "Maria," he said softly. "Joseph." My voice was flat. "Why are you here?" I needed to see you. To talk." "There's nothing to talk about. Please. 5 minutes." I sighed and gave him 5. He stumbled through his apology, talking about working 2 jobs, realizing how hard it must have been for me. He swore he understood now, that he was sorry for taking me for granted. But the more he spoke, the clearer it was. He still didn't get it. "You think this is about money?" I asked. "Joseph, I'm not angry because you took advantage of my paycheck. I'm angry because the moment you thought I was down, you didn't stand beside me. You handed me divorce papers. When I needed a partner, you treated me like baggage." He dropped his eyes, muttering that he'd never do it again. "You're right," I told him. "You won't. Because you'll never get the chance." He begged, reminded me of our 8 years together, asked what he could do to fix it. But some things can't be fixed. Some betrayals cut too deep. As I walked away, I told him, "Joseph, I hope you learn. I hope you become a better man for someone else. But that someone won't be me." I drove off, watching him fade in my rearview mirror, broken, finally realizing what he'd lost. But realization doesn't undo betrayal. It was too late for apologies, too late for second chances. Now, I'm writing this from my London office. I've been here 18 months, leading the European division. My view overlooks the Thames, and every day feels like a fresh page in a life I built for myself. Giovanni and I are engaged. He proposed in Paris, and the first thing he asked was if I was happy, not what it would cost, not what he'd gain. Genuine love feels so different. Last month, Angela somehow tracked down my address and mailed me a letter. She poured out apologies, told me Isaac had passed from a heart attack, Jacqueline was in a nursing home, Joseph was still struggling, and she herself was married now, pregnant, barely making ends meet. The letter ended with her begging for reconciliation. I read it twice, then tucked it away. Because family isn't about blood, it's about love that doesn't come with strings attached. Joseph's family had shown me what family wasn't. Giovanni and the life we're building together are showing me what it truly is. Sometimes I think back to the woman I was 2 years ago, exhausted, overworked, pouring herself into people who saw her as nothing more than a resource. I ache for her, but I'm also grateful to her. She was the bridge to this moment. Today I'm thriving. I'm loved for who I am, not what I can provide. And most importantly, I'm free. Free from being anyone's bank account. Free to live for myself. The pain taught me something priceless. I'm stronger than I thought, braver than I believed, and worthy of love without conditions. That lesson was worth every scar. As I finish writing, the London sky is glowing gold and crimson. Tomorrow Giovanni and I are off to Scotland just because we want to. No guilt, no demands, no calculations. Just love, laughter, and freedom. For the first time in years, my life is truly mine.